Today, we would like to take you on a trip around the world to visit several important regions facing unique problems as a result of globalization. Our first stop is the Philippines, found in the Asian region. This is one of the most concentrated places in the world. Unsurprisingly, this is an area of the world with a number of language issues. More than 1,000 islands make up the Philippines, resulting in a varied network of communication options. This is the result of forcible separations, conquests, and imposed systems of government. In addition to the 16 major regional languages found through these islands, the Philippines is also a home to hundreds of dialects. The Philippines is known to host around 175 distinct and decipherable languages, many of which bear a strong resemblance in terms of their overall structure to Romantic languages such as French and Spanish. In an attempt to provide adequate remedy, the national government declared that the national languages were English and Tagalog. Tagalog is also known as Filipino. Renato Constantino of the Filipino Mind states that the Filipino government is working hard to implement solutions. Education policy has been overhauled, making it so that nearly every person is able to communicate in at least one of the two major languages. The solution is to build common ground by ensuring each and every citizen can communicate in both Tagalog and English. Also on our trip, we will consider the economic footprint the Philippines struggles with as a nation. This is also why it represents the second leg of our journey. Like other Asian countries, the sheer size of their population makes management of the carbon footprint very difficult because there is an explosion of urban populations and impacts. One of the markers of an urban society is a high concentration of automobiles, factories, and urban sprawl. Environmental degradation, including air pollution, is common. The population is most prevalent in these urban centers, as evidenced by the color and the shades found throughout the region. Rawthorne and Bloom argue that the principal defendant happens to be vehicle pollution, which is an increasing problem within the Philippines as a result of the continued urban growth. Bodies of water are similarly not immune from the byproducts of urbanization. Milewal argues that resource planners are stymied by the amount of chemicals discharged into key bodies of water, as well as how eroding forest lands, sediment and tailings from mining explorations and operations in the Cordilleras exacerbate the siltation problem, while chemicals employed in fishing, oil contamination from marine vessels, municipal fishing boats, and port activities contribute to the degradation of environmental lands and waters. One possible solution to the air pollution could be developing a common and shared user system of transportation. Our next stop will be across the ocean to the Second Federal Republic of Mexico, located in the region of North America, where we will examine political economic issues. The economy of Mexico is closely associated with struggle. According to the Multidimensional Poverty Index created by Oxford University, close to 3.3 million Mexicans live in some kind of poverty, with rural residents accounting for the bulk of individuals who face consequences such as food insecurity and economic hardship. According to Luke Cohen for the Huffington Post, approximately 9.8% of Mexico's total population lives in extreme poverty. In Ziltepec, Mexico's fifth poorest state, 86% of the residents are poor and 30% live in extreme poverty, with nearly all lacking the benefits of employment and retirement. Poverty, as defined, means living on no more than 2,329 pesos a month. That means just $183 in American money for folks to live on. That also represents only what citizens living in the cities are allotted. For people in rural areas, the amount is much less. The problems for poverty are numerous. Within Mexico, economic growth is incredibly slow. Spurring forth faster growth would address poverty without risking inflation. Economic growth can come with outside investment, such as for work opportunities, to correct the idea that being born and living poor means one is sentenced to die poor. Short of these economic strides, which almost certainly require additional investments from foreign powers, it is unlikely that the poverty situation in Mexico will resolve anytime soon. Our next stop is the land down under, Australia, a continent located in the Oceania region. The country's population estimates around a little less than 24 million. Most prominent among those populations are individuals who identify as Christians. Religion represents a complex relationship of sociopolitical natures that we will examine in our trip. Christianity is the most dominant population among all other religions found in Australia. In total, 61.1% of Australia's citizens identify as Christians, according to the 2011 census. Other religions such as Buddhism, Islam, and Hinduism are also counted, but they factor in at smaller numbers, such as 5.9%. No religion and unstated religion believers account for the remaining percentage in Australia. Christianity remains the highest religion, in part because of the British settlements that first colonized the area in 1788. This colonization forced a heavy price on the indigenous Australian Aborigines who were there prior to colonization. The Aborigines were dominated through Christian churches that were organized around mission trips and spread Christianity throughout the communities. During that period, the Aborigines suffered tragic consequences brought on by chickenpox, smallpox, influenza, and measles. When their population dropped, their varied religious identities went with them. It resulted in the problem that still plagues Australia to this day, which is a lack of varied representation among many different belief systems. An additional problem comes in that despite being predominantly Christian, religious splits have ushered in a higher number of non-believers than ever before. At this point, though it is not clear whether people do not believe because they lack the background of religious indoctrination for self-identification, or if it is truly a lack of religious affiliation, it is evident that the stronger religious presence is on the decline, according to the census. In fact, the largest number of Christians to be found in Australia, according to the census, has to do with immigration from Asia and the Middle East. As a result, religious diversity is slowly increasing, but it is a consequence and a byproduct of immigration rather than something being conditioned by actual administrators of the country. The census shows that of the non-religious, up to 22.3% are males and younger people who are more likely to stay convicted of their non-religious beliefs. Today, Australian government is creating events and programs to approach the issues in religious diversity by bringing people together to learn the importance of Australians respecting one another and avoiding the appearance of preferential treatment for Christianity. Our final stop is a return to the North American region, where we can evaluate the United States and the unique issues that result from interactions between Americans and their environment. As a consumer of energy, the United States is among the most energy-dependent countries in the world. The map is a nighttime screenshot of the United States, which shows just how many lights are used throughout the night. This picture was taken by an orbiting satellite in April of 2012. The brighter spots on the map are locations where more energy is used. One doesn't realize that even one light can have such a big impact on our environment. As an economy, America relies on capitalism. Light bulbs are rarely denied to citizens of the United States, and they are available for easy purchase. Energy consumption rates have actually climbed steadily throughout the 90s and into the aughts. Part of this is due to the explosion of technology within the status quo. Computers, cell phones, and TVs have all become more technologically complex and therefore even more dependent upon energy consumption. On the whole, energy consumption by household has doubled in the last 20 years. Bigger cities are predominantly responsible for these problems. With the excessive use of energy, the pollution generated, and waste one disposes of during a simple day will more than account for what some other countries spend in an entire week. If one walks out at night, especially to those who live in a big city, it will be impressive to find how many lights are on for no discernible reason. Even though politicians have been working diligently to institute greater rationing of energy sources and also to curb excess and wasteful use, it will still be a while before we see the country as a whole reduce its dependence on energy. An important solution for each individual is to make sure that they are turning lights off when they leave a room. Make sure that they are also powering down their cell phones, their TVs, and their computers. Each of these represents a small step towards ultimately decreasing the dependence upon electronic consumerism and the energy that goes along with it.